All right, welcome back to Podcast Recovery, everybody. We are your hosts, David O.
And Eric V.
Today we are joined by our very special guest, Daniel M. How are you?
Hey, what's up, guys?
What's up?
I don't think I've ever called you Daniel.
I don't think you have either,
That was weird.
but I liked it.
Okay, fair enough. Where are you from, Dan?
I'm from Columbia, Maryland.
Columbia, Maryland.
Surprise.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Yeah.
like the seventh person.
I don't know.
It's ridiculous.
Nathan, Brad, you. Yeah.
Matt.
The hard streets of Columbia.
Yeah, man. Mean streets of Seatown.
Yeah, where addiction grows.
That's true.
That should be on every bench in Columbia.
Yes.
Where addiction grows.
Where the seed of addiction is planted. When were you first introduced to recovery?
Probably 2009. 2009.
All right.
When I got my first DUI.
Nice. Yeah. And how long have you been clean?
I've been clean for over 6 years.
Nice. Yeah. Fantastic. Well, without further ado, unless Eric has anything.
No.
Without further ado, sir, I'm going to turn it over to you to share your story with us.
Oh, yeah. I grew up in a good house. Both my parents are still together. It was me and my sister and them. They're very loving and caring people. They always showed me that I was loved. They worked hard to make sure that my sister and I were always taken care of. The one kind of unusual aspect of my household is that my dad is in a wheelchair. He was in an accident when I was 2 and broke his neck. And so that created some unusual challenges for us as a family while I was growing up. So I had to grow up really quickly. By the time I was, I wanted to be a kid. My friends were all doing kid stuff. I was picking up a lot of responsibilities around the house, having to do a lot more things, just like chores and stuff. And at the time, I didn't think about it. Like, I just kind of did it.
Yeah.
And what I didn't know is that, like, internally, I was processing it differently than I was even able to comprehend. So I, growing up, and everything was like, I was a good kid, man. I got straight A's, never got in trouble when I was, And then I got to middle school, and that kind of ended.
Good.
I kind of started discovering who I was and what I wanted to do. And, it wasn't always what I was supposed to do. So I started acting out a little bit. I stopped caring about my schoolwork. I stopped caring about what my family thought, really.
Yeah.
And just started doing what I wanted to do. And it really wasn't that bad. Like, my grades dropped a little bit. I started getting in a little bit of trouble in middle school. It wasn't that bad. And then I got to high school, and then shit hit the fan, right? Yeah. Like, I was always a big sports guy. I played 3 sports a year in high school. 2 years I couldn't play certain sports because my grades were so bad. I didn't really get in trouble in high school, like in trouble at the school.
Yeah.
But, like, my parents found out I was smoking cigarettes. My parents found out I was smoking weed. My parents found out I was drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
And so I was, like, constantly in trouble at home.
Yeah.
And I didn't care. I didn't care. I worked close to full time, went to school, and played sports.
Where were you working at that time?
At a dinner theater in Columbia.
Toby's?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I worked backstage. So I would go to school in the morning.
You were a techie?
Yeah, I was a techie.
You were a techie at Toby's?
Yeah, that's right.
I don't think it gets more Columbia than that.
Right.
That is super fucking Columbia.
So, yeah, I would go to school in the morning, I would go to practice, and then after practice I would go and work at Toby's, like 5 nights a week.
Wow.
And, so, like, I would get in trouble, right? I would get grounded. I'd be like, I don't have anywhere to fucking go. Like, all my time is taken up. Yeah, so, like, exactly. Ground me. I don't care. And, So high school, comes to an end, and like now it's time to go to college, and I like don't know what I'm gonna do with my life. So I applied to one school, state school, Towson University, where my grandfather taught, by the way. And
You were a legacy? You're a legacy tiger?
yeah, and guess what? Was not accepted. Denied from my legacy pick. Yeah, which was, deflating.
I'm sure.
Deflating.
That'll humble you real quick.
So at that point, I thought I was like out of options, right? I was like, the one school I applied to, I didn't get in. I don't want to go to community college. I'm just going to enlist in the Navy. I had a lot of a couple family members that were in the Navy, so I was like, this is what I'll do. And I was like a couple weeks away from signing my papers to go in, just waiting to turn 18, basically. And somebody called me from a small school up in Pennsylvania, and they were like, hey, we just saw all your scores and everything for lacrosse. We want to come see you play, and probably want you to come play here. And I was like, all right, cool. So they came down and watched me play, and basically walked up after the game and were like, come do a tour. You're on the team if you want it. And I was like, sweet. So I went away to college, which was a terrible decision for me. It was a terrible decision for me. I got there was only one thing that I cared about being at school, and that was playing lacrosse.
Yeah.
I didn't care about the schoolwork. I didn't care about the university mission or values or anything. I didn't care about that. I was just there to play lacrosse and to get fucked up. That was it. So I thought I was really smart, right? I scheduled all my classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I had no classes Monday, Wednesday, or Friday.
Nice.
So starting on Thursday night, I would just get destroyed until through Sunday night. And then on Monday, I would, nurse my hangover and everything. And finally, later on in the day, I would start doing my homework for all of my classes on Tuesday.
Nice.
And only get half of it done, and sitting there wondering why I have terrible grades. Maybe if I did any work. So after a year spent there, of not doing anything the right way, they told me if I came back, I was going to be on academic probation, which means I couldn't play sports that following term. And I was like, well, that's the only reason I'm here, so I'm just not going to come back. So I just bailed. And I came home, went to Howard Community College for a semester, did not do well. So stopped going after one semester, and just threw myself into work. Just started constantly working. I was working 7 days a week, waiting tables at 2 different restaurants, and just basically making as much money as I possibly could for no reason. The only reason that I had to make money was so that I could go out that night.
Yeah.
So I just totally forgot what I was talking about. So I would make all this money waiting tables at two different jobs, and I would just blow it all on drugs and alcohol. And I had no direction in my life for a long time. Eventually, I met up with a guy who we became really good friends because he sold drugs and I wanted drugs.
Naturally.
And so, I had to build up that friendship, and I wanted drugs cheaper than he normally paid them. So I made sure I was a really good friend.
Yeah.
And then we ended up moving into an apartment together. And so I got a lot of drugs for no money. And then when I would insist on buying drugs, because I wanted like my own drugs, right?
Yeah.
Like he would always be like, "You don't need to pay. We can just like hang out and do drugs."
Yeah, there's
and I was
community
like,
drugs.
I was
and
like,
there's
"Yeah,
personal
yeah,
drugs.
no, but like I want to take drugs to my room and have my drugs." And he was
Yeah.
like, "All right, well, just give me $20 and you can have this whole thing." I'd be like, "All right, cool." And so mission accomplished, right? I'm getting a lot of drugs, not spending a lot of money. At this point, I was not working like at all. Like I was working as little as possible.
Yeah.
I would call out all the time from work. Like I didn't want to leave. I didn't eat really. I would just like do more drugs when I was hungry, so I didn't have to eat.
Yeah.
And it was a really shitty existence. This was the time when I got my first DUI. And I went to court. Well, I got a lawyer, and the lawyer said, you need to start going to these meetings. And I was like, all right. Like, and I had heard about the thing, but like not,
of course.
And so I was like, all right, cool, whatever. So I went to like 2, maybe. I remember one, I drove around Dundalk looking for it for an hour, and I couldn't find it.
You're probably lucky you didn't.
Yeah, and I was like, whatever, fuck this. But I went to like 2 of them and didn't pay attention. People were trying to talk to me and like shake my hand, and I was just like, I just want to go.
So was that the sober fellowship?
Yeah, it was that one. And then
The handshaking tipped me off.
Yeah, that was kind of the point.
Yes.
Well played. There's little things we can say
on the nose.
Yeah.
Sir.
So I went to court, and just like a whole crazy story that goes with this. But basically, the cop didn't show up to court for my DUI.
Oh.
And so they dropped the charge. I got off
scot-free.
And my dad and I are coming out of the courtroom, and he just looks at me and he's like, "You better still learned your lesson." I was like, "Oh my God, I did. I'm never gonna drink and drive again." 2 weeks later, I'm drinking and driving again, like nothing ever happened, because I don't learn stuff. So it was about another year and a half. I got away with drinking and driving all the time, and got pulled over for another DUI. And this time it was like, all right, I've got to be like, this is like my second one now. Like, there's no way I'm gonna get away with it again. Like, I've got to like do the things that I'm supposed to do. And so I started going to those meetings again.
Yes.
And I was going once a week, and was trying to pay attention. And
at this point, did you think you had a problem?
Oh, well, I knew I had a problem for a long time.
Okay.
I just didn't care enough to do anything about it. We would sit there. It would be 5 o'clock in the morning, right? The sun's starting to come up.
Oh, yeah.
And we're like finishing the last cigarettes in our packs of cigarettes and like trying to find one more beer in the house, just like, if I'm not a fucking alcoholic, you tell me who is. Like, and we thought it was a big joke. We thought it was some big joke. I thought I was going to be the guy, 60 years old who spends every day at the bar. That's what I thought.
Oh, God, that guy.
Yeah, that guy. We've all seen that guy. The guy who tries to talk to you.
Nobody likes that guy.
Nobody likes that guy, but I was like totally content with seeing myself, my future self, being that guy.
Yeah.
That's just crazy.
So you started going to
So I started going to these meetings, and I'm like trying to pay attention, but I didn't do myself any favors, right?
Yeah.
I went to this one meeting because it was right next to the house that I was living in, and I went once a week, and it was like full of these like fucking old redneck white dudes, and you know who I'm talking about.
We love you, rednecks.
We love you, yeah. But they would just say a lot of stuff that I would just be like, what?
Yeah.
Like, you just said that. You really just said that. So I didn't do myself any favors. I didn't check out any other meetings. I didn't like try to like figure out
It was a half-assed
how
attempt.
this worked or anything. I just like was going because I could say that I was going, and you know, and they would give me credit for going, basically. And so, you know, I got probation when I went to court. I had to go to this outpatient program, which was a joke. They would tell you when they were going to drug test you. Yeah. And I would still fail drug tests.
Why do they do that?
Give you a chance.
But why? That's
Because you're a fuck up.
Because you're a fuck up. So look. So I went in. I went in and I failed a drug test. And I came back the next week, and my probation officer. No, who runs the IOP. Counselor. My counselor was like, Dan, you failed this drug test. And I was like, yeah, I know. And she's like, you knew you were going to fail? And I was like, whoa, yeah. Yeah, I was high when I took it. Yeah, I knew I was going to fail. She was like, why didn't you tell me? I was like, you want me to tell you I'm going to fail the drug test? She's like, yeah, I'll work with you. And I was like, okay. So, look, I was supposed to be in this outpatient program for 6 months, right? 6 months. All I had to do was piss clean for the last 3 months of the program. Oh, God. And I couldn't fucking do it. When they told you when they were going to drug test you, and I had a counselor who was willing to work with me, I still couldn't piss clean for 3 months straight.
You didn't even attempt like the good old using mathematics, like, oh, if I stop using on Tuesday and pound a gallon of water every day, I'll be fine.
No, because I'm a fucking moron, okay? I would get wasted. Yeah. And I don't know about anybody else, but when I get wasted, I get a big case of the fuckets. Yeah. Right? And so I would get wasted, and I would come home, and there'd be like smoking blunts and ripping bongs in the other room, and I'd like walk in and be like, fuck it, give me that. Yeah. And then you can't like, oh, well, if I stop using today, like I just smoked weed. That shit's there. Yeah. Right? Like, it's not going anywhere. No. And I did. I used to would go to GNC and get the fucking total body flush, 48 hours.
Those things are god-awful.
Yeah. But I would do it, and I think I got away with it one time. And so I was like, I got away with it.
But the bottles are like $50.
Yeah. Well, again, I was a fucking idiot. Yeah. And I had a drug dealer roommate who wanted, our lifestyle to stay the way that it was. So he was willing to like pay for me to pass some drug tests sometimes. Nice. So, after a year of being in this outpatient program I'm supposed to be in for 6 months, I finally get my shit together enough to piss clean for 3 months. Mm-hmm. And I get released, and it's like nothing ever happened. Mm-hmm. And at this point, I don't have a car. Nice. Because I've lost my car after 2 DUIs. Yeah. And we moved to this place where I could ride my bike to work, where I was working. Nice. And so I didn't leave the house except when I would get on my bike to ride my bike to go to work. Mm-hmm. And I would just get annihilated, on a daily basis. Yeah. And my goal, was to be so messed up at the end of the night that I couldn't think. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to be completely void of thought. Mm-hmm. And that was my whole, I would wake up, I would use, and I would use on the way to work, and I would use as soon as I got to work, and I would use in the middle of work, and I would use on the way home from work, and then I would get home, and I would
shift drinks.
Just get annihilated until I finally passed out, and I would start the cycle over the next day. I was completely content with living that kind of a life. And then, what do they say? God does for us what we can't do for ourselves, right? Yep. So our house got raided, and my roommate's dealer flipped on him, and yep, he had saved all of the text messages and just like handed them over.
Oh.
Yep. And I was mentioned in one of the text messages by name.
Ooh.
Which is what? Yeah. So
culpability.
Yeah. So So the cops busted in. You know, I had an M16 shoved in my face.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I'm trying to play stupid with the
raids are not fun.
You know, and I'm like, do you want to tell me what you're doing here? And they're like, shut the fuck up. And I'm like, okay, but just tell me why you're here. I'm like, no, just
yeah.
You know, it was a bad situation. So, my roommate and I both got arrested. We both got charged. I'm a convicted felon. Pretty sure he is too. He took some kind of a plea deal, but I'm pretty sure he's still a felony.
Yeah.
I decided to fight it.
Yeah.
It did not go well.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I guess it did. I didn't do any jail time.
What kind of charges were you facing?
Possession with intent to distribute marijuana, possession with intent to distribute mushrooms, and
mushrooms is a weird charge. Like hallucinogens, I think like back in the day, like if you got caught with like trying to distribute acid, you could also get like a conspiracy to overthrow the government charge, which is just simply fucking crazy. So the fact that you were getting charged with distributing mushrooms is also equally crazy.
Yeah. So you know, they get everybody handcuffed and in one room, and they're going through everything, just destroying the house. Just
it's like a fucking wrecking crew.
Just and you know, my roommate had like a bunch of stuff hidden in the ceiling, in the drop ceiling in the basement.
Yeah.
So like we go down there after we get released from jail, and this fucking ceiling's just ripped down off of the.
Of course. Yeah. This isn't their first rodeo.
No. You know, and they're field testing the drugs. We like hear them smoking the drugs and shit. We're like,
oh, nice.
Are you fucking kidding me?
They're
like
smoking your weed?
Yeah, they're just smoking our weed.
It's Howard County.
Yeah.
Was it in Howard County?
Yeah, it was.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, so one of the cops takes me outside, like away from everybody.
Oh yeah, good cop, bad cop.
And he's like, "Look, you need to tell us what you know, or this isn't going to end well for you." And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know shit, so, like, get the fuck out of my face.
Yeah.
Because now I think I'm a tough guy, right?
Of
like,
course.
I'm already in handcuffs, so fuck it.
Yeah.
And he's like, we know that he's been getting drugs from across state lines. I'm like, I don't know anything that you're fucking talking about. And so, like, I can't help you, dude. I can't. I know that he sells drugs.
Yeah.
That's all I know. Okay, I buy drugs from him. I don't know what more you want from me.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, you don't just buy drugs. Like, we know everything about you. And I was like, you don't know shit about me, bro.
Yeah.
Because I don't do anything else. Like, you know, I really wasn't out there, like,
no,
selling drugs. Like,
you're not a cartel.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't fit the profile.
I'm just like, all right, dude, like, get the fuck out of my face. So then they you know, finish doing what they're doing, and they take us down to Jessup.
Haul you off to the Hooskow.
Yeah, and
I'm really glad I got that on tape. Hooskow. All right.
This one guy takes me in his Jeep, right? This undercover guy takes me in his Jeep. Nice. And he's like, this is the good cop, right? This is the good cop out of the good cop, bad cop.
Oh, nice.
He's like, come on, you're going to ride with me. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, we found cigarettes on you. Do you smoke? And I was like, yeah. He's like, all right. He's like, you can smoke a cigarette in my car. And I was like, all right, cool. And and he's like, we gotta switch his handcuffs, because I'm like handcuffed behind my back.
Yeah.
So he's like, we're gonna put him on we're going to switch your handcuffs. If you run from me, I'll fucking kill you. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to run, dude. Like,
yeah, you already know everything about me.
Yeah, you know where I live.
Where am I
so
going
they
to go?
switch my handcuffs, and I get in the front seat of this guy's Jeep, and he drives me. He's doing like 90 miles an hour down 29.
Nice.
And he's just like feeding me cigarettes. Like every time I finish a cigarette, he's like, here, have another one. And I'm like, okay. And so I'm just like chain smoking in his car, lying my ass off about how I don't know anything.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's really your story, huh? And I was like, yeah. And I mean, I don't know why, like, I felt compelled to like continue to lie at that point, but it's what I've been doing for so long. That was just like my automatic reaction. So I go to jail, and I'm like in there in the holding cell, and I've, been through all this before, in the mugshot, doing the fingerprints. And it all seemed very business as usual.
Yeah.
Which, like, I had a revelation at that point that, like, that was really fucking sad. That I'm, like, in there, and I'm just like, oh, now it's time to do this. Now we do this.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm already, one step ahead of him on the mug shots. He's like, oh, turn to the right. Oh, you already did. Like,
yeah.
Like,
I smiled for my mugshots.
I did not. I did not.
I cheesed.
And
I asked him, I was like, can I make a face? He was like, yeah, sure, we'll go on 3. And he was like, 1, 2, click. I was like, oh, I didn't get to make my face. He was like, oh, too bad.
So I'm sitting in the holding cell, and I'm just like, I don't have, like, I'm not calling anybody. Like, you want your phone call? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No, there's, like, my parents aren't going to come and bail me out again. Like, they already told me, like, if I get arrested again, don't call them.
Yeah.
I didn't have any, like, real friends, because at this point I had, like, alienated myself from everybody. Like, that wasn't directly going to get me drugs. Or at least I thought.
Yeah.
And, the only other person that I, like, thought I could count on was sitting next to me in the holding cell. And, he was like, I'm going to get you out. I'm going to get you out. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, and so I was, like, content to just, like, chill until
wait that out.
He could get me out. So he got bailed out. And,
you didn't get let out on recog?
No, fuck no. Excuse me. Sorry.
He's burping. He's been drinking feisty cherry Diet Coke,
yeah.
which just sounds disgusting.
It's delicious. Do you want some backwash?
No.
All right. So
sitting in a holding cell waiting for...
So I'm sitting in a holding cell, yeah, and I'm just waiting for, hours to get out. And by myself, they finally, like, moved me into my own little cell.
Yeah.
Still in the holding area.
I wonder if we got the same cell.
I was, like, the first cell on the right as soon as you came out from the big tank.
Yeah, me too.
Hey.
Up top.
And
cool, guys.
We're like Eskimo brothers of the jail world.
And so...
yeah, it's about as far as that went.
That's going to stop.
I regret saying that.
So I'm sitting in this little cell, and there's, like, other people in the other cells, and they start, like, trying to talk to me, like, what are you here for? And I'm like, I think I'm so smart. I'm like, these guys have, like, microphones in here, and they're waiting for me to say something to incriminate myself. So I'm, like, lying to these guys in the cell.
Of course.
It's just so stupid. And
that's actually probably smarter than I thought, because I was just telling everybody everything.
I was so smart.
And if they did have a bug, they'd be like, oh, well, you said this in the bullpen. And I'd be like, fuck.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah, I was so smart. I was so smart that I ended up in jail again. So finally, they're like, "Do you want your phone call yet?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess so."
Mm-hmm.
Like, give me the phone call. It's been hours since my roommate got out, and I'm still here, so I guess he's not coming back for me.
Probably
And
not.
so I called my mom, and she, didn't have the money to bail me out. It was a decent bail. It was a decent bail. I think it was like $50,000.
So that's what, $5,000?
$5,000.
10%.
Yeah. And so she didn't have it, and so I was like, well, this is it. Like, this is what I'm gonna do until the trial, I guess.
Until trial, yeah.
And luckily I had somebody who cared for me very much, who was willing to help me out in that situation, and get me out of jail, and came and picked me up and took me back to the house, which is just in, shambles. And I didn't know what to do at that point. Like, I was like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And so what I did was I started like putting the house back together, but also like looking in on my like super secret hiding places for any drugs that might be left from the raid.
Yeah.
And there were some. That trumped up paraphernalia charge they didn't end up charging me on. They left all of my paraphernalia. So like I got there and my bowl was still like half packed. Like my grinder was there. There was like a little bit of drugs sitting on my nightstand that I guess they didn't care enough about because there were like pounds and pounds of drugs throughout the house. And so I just started doing all the drugs that I could find in the house. And I tried to go to work the next day. And everybody, whenever anything goes wrong and anybody sees you and they know that something has happened, they always want to ask you if you're okay. And the answer is never yes. Right? Like the answer is always yes. Like we always say yes, but we never really mean yes. What we mean is stop fucking talking to me about it.
Yeah.
Right. And so I like go back to work and everybody is going, oh my gosh, are you okay? Are you okay? And after like the fifth person came up and asked me if I was okay, I just like fucking lost it. I like snapped.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I'm not fucking okay. Like, why would I be okay with anything that's happening in my life? And like had this like existential like meltdown in the middle of work. And my manager just like walked up to me and was like, you like, just go home. Just go home. Like, you're not in trouble. Nobody's mad at you. Go home. And like, don't come back to work until you're ready to be here. And so I did that. I went home and got more drugs and, tried to process my feelings the only way that I knew how to at that point, which was to mask them with drugs.
Yeah.
And it didn't work.
No, trying to get high after an arrest is...
It didn't work at all. It was the first time in my life that it didn't work. It was drugs were always like they were trusty, I could trust the drugs.
Yeah.
Couldn't trust anything else, but I could trust the drugs. And so I'm like really lost at this point. Like nothing is okay in life. Like the drugs don't work. No, I didn't know what to do. I knew I had to get a lawyer. So we knew a guy who was pretty decent defense attorney, and so I called him, and he was like, yeah, of course, I'll represent you, no problem. Come meet me at my office at 8 o'clock some morning. I was like, fuck, 8 o'clock. And I was like, okay, I'll be there. And so I was there, and I was still drunk from the night before. And I walked in, and he like shakes my hand, and we sit down, and he just looks at me. He's like, are you drunk? I was like, no. And he's like, you're drunk. You're fucking drunk. And I was like, no, I'm not drunk. I'm not drunk. And he's just like, Dan, what you are right now is a fucking bum. That's what you are. And I don't represent bums. So you need to get your shit together if you want to have any shot in court. And I was like so offended. So angry that this motherfucker would talk to me like that. How dare you call me a bum?
It's really not that bad. But like at the time I could see
at the time, I like, and
it could have been worse.
Like I had never been by all like standards, right? I had never been a bum, right? Yeah. Like I was never homeless.
I was totally a fucking
You know what I mean? Like I was never that guy like doing the Baltimore lean. You know what I mean? Like so that was like part of like my why I thought I was okay, because I had like never done these things. I had never reached this like level of addiction that would mean I wasn't okay. And so he called me a bum, and it like brought all that up. Like I'm not that like, but no, I was like, I showed up to my fucking lawyer's office drunk at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so I was so mad at him, but I needed that. I needed it to give me that like push in the right direction. And so I was like, I don't know why, but like in that moment I like swallowed my pride, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get my shit together. Just tell me what to do. Whatever it is, I'll do it. And he was like, okay, well, you need to go do this outpatient program, like this one specifically, which was like 45 minutes away from my house, and I didn't want to do it. But like he said, like, do this one. And so I did that one. And he told me to start going to meetings, the meetings where they give you a hug. And
the clean fellowship.
Yeah. And
the meetings where you give you a hug.
The meetings where they give you a hug.
Love that.
And so I was like, okay, I'll go. And I went to this outpatient program. And for the first time, I was honest. I walked in and they said, when's the last time you used? And I said, last night. And they said, okay, well, you can't use anymore. Like, this is it. Like, we're going to start drug testing you, and we're going to watch the drugs, like, leave your system in the drug tests, and we'll be able to tell if you're still using. And I was like, okay. And then I went to this meeting at 11:59 on a Friday night.
Very good.
And I walked up and people gave me a hug and they said, welcome. And I didn't really know what to do with any of that. But I went in and I sat down.
On lovely couches.
On lovely couches.
Dirty couches.
Lovely couches.
Dirty
couches.
They are dirty.
I don't remember anything that was really said.
No.
That night. But what I do remember is the person who shared, and I remember that she became very emotional in the middle of the share and had to stop speaking to cry for a moment.
I've done that.
And
yes, you have.
Regain her composure, and then continue to deliver a message.
Yeah.
And that meant something for me. I had not for a long time felt like I could express myself the way that I truly felt. You know, my parents were very cool and like understanding and not like, my dad was not one of those guys who men don't cry and like, no, not at all. And so it wasn't like I had any of this like family pressure to bottle my emotions. But I relied on the drugs for so long to keep my emotions in check that I never felt the need or like the reason to let them out.
Yeah.
And so when I walked into this meeting and like saw somebody like really letting out their emotions, it was important to me. And then at the end of these meetings, they celebrate clean time. And so
with a key tag and a hug.
Yeah. And at this point, I had not done drugs, quote unquote, for 30 days. I had been drinking every day.
Loophole.
Yeah. But I had not done any
Or so you
drugs for 30 days. So when they said 30 days, I walked right up there and got my key tag and a hug for 30 days. And so I went back to that meeting the next day, and this time I heard him talk about how alcohol is a drug. And then I realized that I have not been clean for 30 days. But I didn't know what to do with that information. And I did not want everybody to think that I was some kind of a liar, or like trying to get over on anybody, or like, you know what I mean? So I just kept it to myself. I just lied. I didn't want people to think I was lying, so I lied. That makes sense, right? And
that's yes.
Yeah. And
wow, did that make sense?
Yeah, I didn't want anybody to think I was lying. So I continued this lie for the next 2 months. The next 2 months, right? So a month later, the 60 days came up, and I got my 60-day, even though I was really only clean for 30 days. And then 30 more days went by, and I picked up my 90-day, even though I'd really only been clean for 60 days. And at this point, I had been hanging out with a couple of people in the fellowship and feeling like, pretty good about this whole being clean thing. And one of the things they suggest is to get a sponsor. And so I was ready to get a sponsor. And so I asked this guy.
I remember who you asked.
Yeah. I asked this guy to be my sponsor. And, this gentleman.
Who did you ask?
Brian.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
This gentleman did not do a lot of things right. He did not do a lot of things right.
He did not.
But he did this right. When I asked him to be my sponsor, he said, "I'm not there yet. I can't sponsor you."
Ooh.
And I'm really thankful for that, because I don't know where I would be in my recovery if he had agreed to sponsor me.
Probably back in jail.
And he said, "I can't sponsor you. Like, you need to find somebody else who knows more about what they're doing. But, I can like help you out getting started until you find a new sponsor." And I was like, all right, cool. And he was like, "But listen, there's just one thing I have to ask you. Please don't lie to me." And I lost it. I just started crying and like apologizing profusely for lying about how much time I had clean, and like standing out in front of this meeting, just like bawling. And he was like, dude, just like calm down. So what are you trying to say? And I'm like, I have my 90-day key tag, but I really only have 60 days clean. And he's like, okay, well, do you have the 90-day key tag with you? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, okay, well, give it to me. So I gave it to him. And he was like, pick it back up when you hit 90 days. And I was like, that's it? He's like, yeah, that's it. You're not the first person. You won't be the last. Like, that's
No,
it.
fuck no.
And I was like, okay, like, great. I've just spent the last, like, 60 days in, like, inner turmoil every
That's
time they do
hysterical.
the clean time
That's
recognition.
hilarious. Dude, the key tags like are so like especially in like early recovery, they're so like personally important. But like in reality, in like the big scheme of things, it's like they're not that important.
Well, for me,
Oh yeah, it's a big deal.
it's a big deal, but it's because it, like,
It's
I
like a
can't think of
trophy.
the words I'm trying. It's like a trope, yeah, but it's like it quenches the addiction. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
you reach a goal.
and you get it. Like, you
Yeah.
get that thing that you want.
So you're hitting like
I
guess
want it.
You're peaking. You know, like how you would peak during an acid trip. You're peaking during a recovery by getting a key tag
Oh wow,
or a chip.
it's true.
So, yeah.
I learned something today.
And then the longer you stay clean, the less frequently you get key tags, and
Which is
that
a total gif.
sucks.
Total sucks.
We should get a key tag every month.
Now I get one a year.
One a year.
No, you shouldn't get a key tag every month. That's crazy.
I'm just waiting for my decade.
At least
key
twice
tag.
a year.
No, it's once a year.
No, we should get
No.
like twice a year.
No, every month. I want to celebrate my recovery every month.
You can do that
You do that-
personally
you do
with
that-
yourself, though.
Exactly.
All right, you guys talked me into it.
Yeah.
So, so I just handed over my key tag, and everything was okay.
Yeah.
And it was around this time I went to a different meeting, a meeting that I didn't go to very often, and I was talking to this guy before the meeting, and he was like, I'm so-and-so. I don't remember who it was. I'm so-and-so. What brings you around? I was like, oh, well, I've got court coming up, and I'm here, and blah, blah, blah. He's like, well, do you have a sponsor yet? I said, not yet. I'm still looking. And he was like, well, really doesn't matter why you're here. The only thing that matters is that you keep coming back. And I don't know why. Like, I'd heard keep coming back. I'd heard just stay. I'd heard all these things 100 times at this point. But for some reason, like, when he, like, looked me in the eye and said, it doesn't matter why you're here, just keep coming back, it was like, that's it. Like,
Yeah.
it's going to be okay. Like, I'm going to keep coming to these meetings, and, like, life is going to work out. And in a nutshell, like, that's what happened. I kept coming to meetings. I got a home group. I guess for anybody who doesn't know, a home group is like one meeting you go to every week, and you participate in that meeting
Yeah.
through, like, making coffee or, like, unlocking the door or whatever.
I think you're actually the first person to explain that on the show.
Well, there you go.
That's valuable information, though. Like, yeah, home groups are important. They are. Like,
They teach you responsibility, teach you accountability. And people depend on you when you say you're going to be part of a home group. They depend on you to be there. So I got a home group. I found a sponsor. Brian introduced me to this guy, actually. I don't have time to even talk about how amazing that relationship is. He's been through everything that I've ever been through.
what's his name?
His name is Dan.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll get him on the show soon.
And he always talks about a deeper level of recovery.
Oh, God. Dan's amazing.
And basically, like, a deeper level of recovery is like understanding why we're doing things. And like, when we do things, like, we're inherently doing them for the right reason, instead of, like,
Getting to
doing
the
them because
exact
we're supposed
natures
to,
of our
or-
behaviors.
Yeah. Yeah. So I got a sponsor. I started working step work, which is hard at times for me, but also extremely rewarding. And
What happened with? I think our listeners need to know what happened with the court case.
I'm a convicted felon. I didn't do any jail time. But yeah, I mean,
Because I think I remember when you went to.
Yeah.
You finally went to
so
court.
yeah, so
Because I showed up, what, 6 months after you? 6, 7 months after you?
something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that, 2012. Because
Yeah.
you're July,
Yeah.
I'm November.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Sweet.
So so I got a sponsor. I started working steps,
Mhm.
and then
I'm sorry.
I banged out my steps. 1, 2, 3, bam, knocked them out.
Yeah.
And I started working on step 4, which is, basically like looking at all the wrong, the harm that I've caused, the wrong that I've done, as a result of my addiction.
Yeah.
And so I started, and also the big thing for me with that was because like I had come to terms with like harm that I had caused and like being a shitty person throughout active addiction, but there's one part in there that talks about the resentments, right? Our resentments, and I had this. I had figured out that I had this resentment against my father. Because of the fact that he was in a wheelchair. And I didn't get my childhood growing up. And so I'm like, I would do step work at like 3 o'clock in the morning when I couldn't sleep.
That's the best time to do it, in my opinion.
Yeah, until you're like trying to work on some resentments, and then you're like talking about how you resent your father who, through no fault of his own, like lost the power to walk, and is still to this day like the best human being that I know. I couldn't process, like I couldn't handle it at that point in my recovery.
Then you're crying at 3 a.m.
I was crying. I was like uncontrollably crying. That happened a lot to me in early recovery, just uncontrollably crying.
Me too. We cried together a lot
Yeah.
in front of that 11:59 meeting.
And
Shut up, Eric. I feel judgment.
I'm not judging.
I feel judged.
so I'm like crying at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, don't know what to do. I don't know who to call. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't want to call anybody because I feel like I'm being a bitch, right? Like. And I still don't know why at this point in time I had that feeling, but that like I couldn't, like nobody's going to understand,
Yeah.
right, that I'm crying at 3 o'clock in the morning because I'm trying to work on some resentments. And that was like one of the toughest nights ever. And so like the next day I talked to my sponsor and I was like, yeah, this happened. I didn't know what to do. And he was like, why didn't you call me? I was like, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. He's like, I don't care. Fucking call me.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. And he was like, you've got court is around the corner. Like there's a lot going on in your life right now. Why don't you take a break? Like step 4 is a big deal. Why don't you just like take a breather on that, deal with court, and then pick it back up after court? Like see what's gonna happen. And I was like, all right, that's cool. So I went to court. That was a 2-day process.
It was like a jury?
It was a jury.
Oh.
Yep. We did a whole jury thing.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, it was like kind of, looking
now-
back on
now
it, it was
it's
kind of cool, like process to be a part of, but like, in the moment, I didn't want anything to do with it. So I'm like sitting there in court. It's, I can feel it's like not going well, right? Like, and then at one point, the prosecution brings out all of the evidence collected from the house.
Oh my God, really?
All of it.
Wow.
It's like pounds of drugs.
Yeah.
And this guy is literally just like picking it up from the prosecution table and like carrying it like right past me to like take it to the jury, like
my drugs,
everything. And it wasn't like, oh, my drugs,
No,
but like I'm like, talk about white knuckling. Like at this point, I'm like holding onto the chair. I'm like visually upset. I'm agitated. I'm like losing my mind. Like I don't know what to do. There's all of these drugs in my face, and I literally just want to grab them and run out of the courtroom.
Yeah.
And like do as much of them as I can before I get chased down and caught. Like these are the thoughts that are going through my mind at that moment. And I went to a meeting that night and cried uncontrollably as I threw up all over the meeting.
Yeah.
And it was important for me to do that, to get through that time, you know. Basically, court, you know, continued. They found me guilty of possession with intent to distribute marijuana, but not the mushrooms. And they told me I didn't have to serve jail time. I was going to be on 3 years probation. And I had to go to 3 meetings a week and see my probation officer. And I was like, all right, cool. I can do those things. I was going to approximately a meeting a day, so 3 meetings a week was no problem.
Yeah.
So I got out of the court process and just kind of went back to life the way I had been living it for the last couple of months. About 6 months at this point.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, life didn't change that much after court. I had to go see my probation officer once a month, but that wasn't a problem. I did the things that I was supposed to do with them. I was going to meetings, getting my
things. You did
thing.
that for 3 years.
Yeah, getting my thing signed.
Have you kept those like marble notebooks?
No, so when I was getting ready to go to court, I had this composition book, like those old-timey composition books, right? And I took it with me and I got it signed at every single meeting.
Yeah, that thing was loaded.
Yeah, for 6 months. And so when I went to court, you know, we turned that in during my sentencing. Just this beat up composition book,
it was
pages
destroyed.
falling out. But it had 6 months worth of like a meeting a day.
Yeah.
In
Several hundred meetings,
you know?
yeah.
And that there was this one group that I used to go to on Wednesday nights in Baltimore, 10 p.m.
Oh.
And the secretary would wait for me to bring that book up every week. And I would bring it to him, and he would always look through the whole thing to see how many meetings there were. And he would just hold it up and look at me and be like, this is an inspiration.
Nice.
Like, this guy has 20 years clean. You know what I mean? And he's looking through my book, talking about... Anyway, that composition book, I think, helped to get me out of some jail time, probably.
Nice. You should keep it. You should have kept it.
The judge kept it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice.
I didn't get it back. So for the next 3 years, went to meetings, got slips signed, turned them in, took drug tests, had to see my PO anytime I needed to go out of town for any reason. Completed the community service I needed to do. Did all those things that I was supposed to do. Kept a job, stayed employed at the same place. Crazy. And after 3 years, it was it. I was done. I was off. And
Now, can you ever have that expunged?
10 years. 10 years before it's eligible for an expungement in Maryland.
I actually just this year, in February, applied to get all my stuff expunged because some of it was due. Like it had been enough time. Some of them hadn't though, and just because I petitioned and actually went to court and like got to say my piece in front of the judge, I have an entirely clean record minus a fireworks charge, which is not expungible.
Really?
Is not expungible because it's a civil citation.
Yeah.
It's not a charge. Civil citations are not expungible.
Wow. All right.
Something to look into. You know,
Definitely.
I'm just saying for everybody out there. So anyway,
so I did all the things I was supposed to do. I kept going to meetings. After the 3 years was over, I kept going to meetings. I started to grow personally and professionally.
I thought you were about to say grow mushrooms. I was like, oh my god, no.
No, I didn't grow mushrooms in the first place.
Apparently not. According to the judge.
No, we bought them. So I started to grow in every aspect of life. And like really, it's all because I found recovery. Nothing that I did in life worked before I got here. Nothing.
Yeah.
The step work changed my life. It really helped me to explore the reasoning behind my actions. Because for a long time, I just thought I was very reactionary. Oh, well, I did this because this happened. When really, what I've come to find out is that even, like, my reactions are based on the way that I'm living, right? Like my reaction today to the exact same thing that happened 10 years ago are completely different. And the only thing that's changed is the way that I live my life, the way that I have learned how to think, right? And I don't think there's a way to like put a value on that. You know, I've been married for 3 years. That's crazy. I found somebody who's willing to put up with my crazy.
And she's awesome.
She is awesome. And I just don't think that anything about where my life is today would be remotely the same had I not found recovery, like period. You know, I probably would have gone to jail and done jail time. And I don't know, because I've never done like real jail time, but from what I understand, that changes you. And usually not for the better. And I just don't know. I don't even want to think about where I would be. So that right there is enough to keep me grateful on a daily basis. You know, I still struggle. I still have those thoughts that I want to go use, or I can handle it. I'm an adult. Like, I work in an industry where a lot of people drink. And so I think that, like, you know, sometimes, like, maybe it would be okay if I, like, had a drink because I went to a conference and, like, that's what everybody's doing. And it's expected of me. But, like, the bottom line is I know where that drink ends. You know, and it might be okay that day, might be okay that week, might be okay that month. But, like, sooner or later, I'm going to end up in a jail cell. And probably not for just a night. Anymore. Like, so, playing the tape through, as they say, which means visualizing exactly what's going to happen if and when I decide to pick up that drug, has kept me clean through a lot of, like, maybe it would be all right to use moments.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. And so now I'm here.
Fantastic.
I think I'm done finally talking.
I think
Cool.
I think you are too, and I think Eric has some questions.
I always have questions. Well, don't you usually? You've been starting off with
I
questions.
know. I've been
You know what I
I've
mean?
been swinging for the fences recently.
You want to try?
No.
Why not?
I'm not there yet
Okay.
today.
So that's fun.
That's fine.
That's fun. We'll start with an easy one. And what way has addiction manifested itself in recovery? So,
Yeah, I know what you're asking.
what am I asking?
How do I act out on my
Yeah.
addictive tendencies today? There are a couple of different ways.
Taco Bell.
Taco Bell. Not specifically Taco Bell, but definitely food. The elephant in the room.
Oh, no.
I'm fat.
Shut up.
So definitely food. I mean, cards on the table. Like, I'm 100 pounds heavier today than I was when I came into recovery.
100 pounds?
100 pounds. Yep.
Recovery weight is a real thing.
That's more than Mary.
Yeah. So,
Good Lord.
So, yeah, definitely. I've processed a feeling or two through food. That's for sure.
Do you have a specific food?
No.
Is it more of just like you consume more food, or do you do you binge eat?
Yes.
To which one? Or to both?
To both. So, it's very much an addiction, right? So, like, when I use drugs, like, using drugs to the point of, okay, I'm high, or okay, I'm drunk, was never enough,
Yep.
right? Like, I always had to push myself past that to the point where I couldn't think.
Yeah.
That's what I, like, wanted out of my drug use. I can't think. And while I don't get to the point of I can't think when I eat, like, I push myself to the point of I can't possibly eat one more anything. Yeah, and also I get when I get like a taste like on my palate, like in my mouth, like I have to like continue eating that thing.
Yeah.
Like feisty cherry Coke.
Like feisty cherry Diet Coke, yeah. Yeah.
Real talk, I just got my Girl Scout cookies delivered today. I'm very excited.
He's been mentioning this shit for weeks.
For weeks. I've been waiting for them bad boys.
Can I tell you a secret?
I had 3 Samoas
I
before I came over
refuse to
here.
eat Girl Scout cookies ever since they changed the recipe.
How'd they change the recipe?
They got a new distributor
They got a
that's
new
making the
baker.
cookies.
That's
yeah.
why they had to change all the names.
Yeah.
He doesn't know.
He doesn't understand.
I don't.
Because I used to crush some Thin Mints like nobody's business.
Yeah. I had 3. Yeah, Samoas are now Caramel Delights.
Yeah, whatever.
Like, whatever.
Okay, you guys have feelings here.
I think Thin Mints are Minty Thins now.
Minty Thins?
I think
Yeah,
they're some
F that.
stupid.
All right. You have more. Go ahead.
Well, definitely Netflix also.
Okay.
Oh,
What are you
yeah.
binging?
Netflix. Right now?
Right now.
Right this minute, I'm binging The Good Cop, starring Josh Groban and Tony Danza.
That's what my wife is watching like periodically when she runs out of shows.
It's so good.
Did you just say Tony fucking Danza?
Yeah, man.
Have you not
He's-
watched the show?
The boss is back?
Yeah, he plays
He
the
look-
dad, the dirty
he looks
cop
so
dad.
bad too.
He does.
So
He looks terrible.
He looks so
he was
down
like
and
a
out,
fucking.
man.
He was a teacher for like the last 20 years.
Dude, he like
He got worn down by some
he
New
looks-
Jersey kids.
Yeah.
He looks like that alcoholic who went to the bar every day at 60. Like
Yeah.
Oh my god, he looks like you at 60.
Yeah, exactly.
That's horrible.
That's right. That's a guy I was content with becoming.
Oh god.
he looks
Tony
bad.
Danza
I'm
in
so
this right
glad
now on The Good Cop.
I'm so glad you're not Tony Danza.
Tony Danza, if you're listening, I love you.
Yes,
I
we love you,
appreciate all
Tony
your work.
Danza. Who's the Boss was fantastic. I grew up on that show.
So is there anything else?
Yes, also a shout out to Alyssa Milano for that show.
Oh my god, dude.
Oh no, he's talking to Dan. Sorry.
I mean, I don't. I just finished binge watching Ultimate Beastmaster.
What the fuck
What is wrong with you? Like,
What
where
the
are
fuck
these
is
shows?
that?
Jesus.
What is this show?
Ultimate Beastmaster. It's like American Ninja Warrior, but
Oh.
it's they invite all these countries, and so like it's like country. It's kind of like the Olympics, but like American Ninja Warrior. So it's like obstacle course racing. It's awesome, and
what
they have
Donnie would do.
and they have all these commentators
So is it
from
like
the other
Global Guts
countries.
from when we were kids?
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Okay.
And they have like all these announcers from the different countries, and it's just like really cool. And then at the end, they like all get together and celebrate whoever won, no matter what country they're from. It's just
Okay.
really cool. It's just
All right.
it's really cool. And I like watching American Ninja Warrior. I like used to be really into rock climbing back in the day when I was in much better shape. And so anyway,
It's not too late.
I know it's not.
I guess we'll go to this question. You kind of like, I'm surprised you came back to this from the beginning of your share, but you were talking about your father, and like we didn't get to like kind of finish that, but you kind of mentioned in the beginning about having to pick up all this responsibility and how you do hold a resentment, like, or did, since one of the questions will be like about steps, but so. You said you did hold a resentment against your father. Did you, like, how did you process that?
In recovery?
In recovery.
Yeah.
Or both.
So,
Yeah,
well,
after
I didn't.
recovery,
I
too.
didn't process it before.
Yeah.
Right. Like there was no
Drugs and alcohol.
Right.
Yeah,
there
no,
was
yeah,
no
in
process.
recovery. Yeah.
In recovery.
So a lot of it had to do with the writing, and just putting it down on paper, and realizing that I had those feelings, not necessarily that I have those feelings. And there's a lot of things that I can't change from my active addiction. There's a lot of things that I can't change from before I got here. Having those feelings is one of them. So I just kind of had to accept the fact that that's a thing that happened. That's a way that I felt. Selfishness was a huge part of my addiction. Selfishness and the fear of loneliness. Those were like the two driving forces for my addiction. And, it's not, today I realize, like, it's not his fault, right? Like, it was a body surfing accident.
Yeah.
He broke his neck. It's not like he was, like, out doing some unsavory things and, like, whatever. Like, there's really not, we were at the beach. It was a family vacation. There's not, so it's not his fault.
You were there.
I was there, yeah. I was there.
Wow.
I was there. My mom was 8 months pregnant with my sister.
Oh, wow.
And according to my dad, an angel pulled him out of the water. No joke.
Maybe it did.
Maybe it did.
None of us are to say.
Nobody saw that person ever again. That's the way that story goes. But, and at every turn through life, he has worked extremely hard at not letting his disability impact his life, the life of people around him. Like, there's some things he can't help. Like, he can't do some things. He needs help. But, the doctors told my mom, like, he's never going to walk again. It's very typical for if he, becomes despondent and, like, really cynical and grouchy and, like, he's not the same person that you knew. Like, that's normal. You just need to be prepared. And that's not him at all. He's one of the kindest, most wonderful men that I know. He really doesn't let it affect him, and he umpires Little League baseball games, high school baseball games. He just does what he wants to do in life. And he doesn't let it slow him down. So that, it's important for me to see those things and, like, realize that because I had to pick up responsibility as a kid, it's not like he was like shoving things off on me unnecessarily. You know what I mean? Like he did everything that he could do, literally physically could do. And so once I kind of like really took all those things into consideration, you know, and was able to apologize to myself for feeling like that. Like I don't need him to apologize for anything.
Yeah.
There's no need for that ever. But what I had to do was forgive myself for feeling that way.
Yeah. All right.
Damn, that was deep.
Yeah, very deep. So, moving on to we'll save that one. So you've worked the steps, right? Have you worked all 12 steps?
No.
No.
Where are you at?
I'm on 9.
You're on 9.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Well, you're always on 9.
Always on 9.
Oh,
But not yet on 10.
Roll your eyes.
I am rolling my eyes at you. 100% rolling my eyes at you.
Fuck.
I'm gonna ask what step has, you know, and don't give me the whole bullshit of like each step is very
every
influential
step
in
is
my life
fantastic.
and blah blah blah. Like what step has been the most meaningful step that you've worked thus far?
All right. Well, first of all, I just want to say that each step. No, just kidding.
Ooh, I'm gonna answer this too.
It's Can I have 2? Can I say 2?
I was gonna do the same thing.
Oh my god. Both. Yeah, sure.
Yes.
All right. So step 4.
Okay.
Step 4. Dealing with the resentments, coming to terms with all of the harm that I caused throughout my active addiction, and then having the understanding that I don't need to cause that harm anymore, and I don't need to allow myself to have those feelings of resentment anymore.
Yeah.
Is important for me living on a daily basis. And then step 7, right? Dealing with my character defects. Being able to understand the ways that I act out when things aren't going well. And once I was able to understand those things and kind of catch myself in the moment, helps me to just like be a better person.
Yeah.
There's a story that I like to tell about the 7th step. It's about my wife. And I mean, it's about me, but also about my wife. We were living in this townhouse, and
Just remember, she might listen to this.
she's not going to. But whatever, it doesn't matter. She's heard me tell the story. And the shelf, we had piled so much shit on the shelf in our closet that it broke. It literally pulled the shelf off of the wall.
Nice.
And I'm like, fuck, we're like renting this townhouse. Like, I'm not trying to pay for this. I'm just going to fix it. And so I start trying to fix it, and I'm not fixing it, right? The shelf is beating me.
Okay.
And I am getting frustrated. I am getting angry. I am on my 7th step at this point. And I am pissed. And my wife comes upstairs and pokes her head in and very nicely asks me if I need any help. And my response was not nice.
What'd you say verbatim?
Something to the effect of, no, I don't need any fucking help. Just let me fucking do it. Fuck!
It's very loud.
Sorry. You want me to redo it?
No, it's fine. You got the point across.
Oh, God.
I can do it
we
less loud.
Apologies to our listeners. That peaked.
I can do it
hard.
less loud.
No.
And
You're
she...
going to blow somebody's speakers with that one.
Good. And she, much to her credit, just said, okay, I'll be downstairs. And then she went downstairs. And I continued to be angry and like try to fix this shelf for like 10 minutes. And I was like, fuck this. I'm going to smoke a cigarette. And so I went to smoke a cigarette and like calm down. And while I'm out there, something told me, so in my brain, like, why don't you fucking pray about it? And so I like prayed about it. And I realized that this moment was exactly the kind of moment that I'm trying to avoid by working the 7th step. Right? Like, this is a defect of character. And so I think I smoked another cigarette.
Yeah, of course.
And
why wouldn't you?
And I went back inside and I apologized to my wife. And then I went upstairs and I fixed the shelf.
Cool.
Nice. Very good.
David, do you want to answer the question? And I have a rebuttal for step 9 for you when you're done.
Okay. I'm probably gonna have to go with step 3. Step 3 because at the time I didn't understand it in any way, shape, or form. Because it was about basically letting go of the control of my life and just giving it up to something greater. And ultimately, like at the time, I really wanted to control it. Like I wanted to control letting go of control, which is not how that fucking shit works. Mm-hmm. And basically, like how it was explained to me and how I learned it is that it's just aligning what I do with a greater purpose. And that's just really just about my thinking and my behaviors, just using that and aligning it with the best parts of the universe and just trying to live my life in that orderly fashion. And that's I'm just gonna go with that one.
Just
the one.
What was the other one out of curiosity that you were thinking about?
I was gonna say 6.
6?
Yeah, really, because it like I think it goes like kind of hand in hand with like 3, because it really like identifies those things that you don't want, and then you can avoid them as best you can. We're humans, so we all fuck up. We all snap at our wives.
That's true.
There's 2 married men in this room and 1 engaged. It's fantastic. We all did drugs.
That means we're getting older.
And recovering. That's true. Where's your rebuttal? What's your rebuttal?
Okay, well, step 9.
Damn it, I forgot.
In my opinion,
now,
you're right.
Quick, have you worked step 9?
I've worked all the steps twice.
Nice. All right, cool.
So, and I worked them differently the first time than I did the second time. So, you're right. You're right to a certain extent. You do work it every day, but really, I think about 4 through 9 is just step 10. So I'm thinking you're working step 10 and you're working aspects of each one. But, hopefully you don't even have to reach that point after you've hit 10 because you recognize that you're an asshole and you stop doing that specific action right at that point. So you don't even need to get to step 9 because you just stopped right there.
So wait, have you apologized to everybody on your 9th step list?
No, because...
So technically you're still working step 9.
Because I'm living it. Yes, that's where I was going with that.
All right.
Yeah, so he's right at that extent. But there are people who I did apologize to, and some of them I'll never talk to again.
Right.
So I consider that being like,
that's closed. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
But there are people on my 9th step list that I will never be able to make amends with.
Well, yeah,
like never. It's just like too much harm was caused, or I don't know their name, or whatever the case may be, but I'll never. And so then, like, I have to, on a daily basis, live the right way in order to make that amends mean something.
Well, yeah, it's both. Yes. So, I mean, like, there is, like, finite.
Yeah, there is closure. There's closure. And then there's
like, I had an ex-girlfriend of, like, 5 years, and I was like, this is someone I do owe an amends to. Mm-hmm. But, like, other people in my life, I'm just like, I'm just going to stop being a dick.
Yeah.
And like, I don't necessarily owe them an amends, but like, as long as I'm not being an asshole, then I feel like I'm, so it's both.
Right.
Yeah.
But
100% agree.
yeah. Cool.
Last question.
I think we're out of time.
We're out of time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I had another question, but
Is it easy? Is it quick?
no.
Okay. All right. We're done?
I think we're done.
All right. Well, Dan, do you have any last words?
Sorry I talked so long.
No.
Dude,
No,
it happens.
You're good.
That happens with everybody. Everybody's like, no, I don't have anything to share. They all go over an hour.
I never said that.
No, you didn't.
No, you didn't. You were the first person. It was fantastic. All right. Well, we would like to thank our guest, Dan, for coming and joining us. Claptrack Eric. Fantastic. It's such a clamoring claptrack. It's so terrible. Here at Podcast Recovery, we are aiming to expand the scope of support for recovering addicts. Accessibility and convenience of helpful services is paramount to combating addiction. We work to bring the message of recovery to every addict, wherever and whenever it is needed. We believe that a powerful voice of recovery should be obtainable, practical, and at the touch of a button. Every addict deserves to hear a message of hope, and Podcast Recovery is here to provide it. Well, all right. Thanks, guys. I think
That was dope.
great show. Fantastic. We appreciate you coming on, Dan.
Thank you.
You might be the new winner for longest podcast.
I think you are.
Not gonna lie, I was
it's
kind of
official
hoping.
Nice. Any last words? This is your final chance.
Just give recovery an opportunity to change your life.
Perfect.
Cool.
All right. Well, all our listeners, follow us on Twitter. Go to our website, podcastrecovery.com. Follow us on Facebook. Give us comments. Subscribe to us on your apps. And, keep listening. Everybody stay safe. Stay clean.